Okay, so I have two really quick books on apples. I promise they are quick. This one is called Apple Tree. Just wait until you see how quick it is. An apple grows in a cycle. How does the cycle go? So the cycle always goes in a circle. You see she's drawing it on the board. Maybe you can see her cycle. First comes the seed. That's what we get out of the apple, right? Then comes the sprout. Do you know what a sprout needs to survive? It needs soil, it needs sunlight, it needs water, and it needs space. And of course, if it's a tree, it needs lots and lots of time. So this says, next come the years. Okay, because we have lots of seasons, but it takes a lot of years for it to get to be a tree. Okay, then comes the tree. I'm sorry, can you see these pictures? Next come the blooms. What are the blooms? They are the flowers on the trees, right? Before the apples. Next come the apples. Seeds wait inside each apple. The cycle begins again. Super short. This one is called the Seasons of Arnold's Apple Tree. This one just shows up more in the seasons so you can remember what the tree looks like, okay? This will be good for when we do seasons next week because we do a tree in one of our centers and you'll remember how the apple tree looks, right? Arnold climbs up high into the branches of the apple tree. He can see far, far away in every direction. That's a pretty cool tree, right? It's always fun to climb in a tree. This is Arnold's very own special secret place. This is Arnold's apple tree. Okay. It's like his peaceful place he likes to go. Arnold's tree keeps him very busy all through the year. It is spring. Arnold watches the small buds grow on his apple tree. Right, in the spring when you go out, that's when you start to see the little buds opening up. Some of the buds develop into sweet-smelling apple blossoms. Can you see the blossoms or the blooms on the trees? Like pink flowers. Carefully and quietly, Arnold watches bees collect nectar from the blossoms to make honey. He's very brave, just watching and observing the bees. Arnold makes a swing for his apple tree. It's pretty handy. He weaves an apple blossom wreath and hangs it from the branches. Arnold picks an armful of apple blossoms and brings it to his family. They make a flower arrangement together. You guys ever make flower arrangements with your parents? Maybe some wildflowers you pick when you're on a walk at the park or in the woods? Now we're to summer. So that was spring and this is summer. Arnold's apple tree has big green leaves that rustle in the wind. Arnold builds a tree house. What? A tree house? Look at that cool tree house. Arnold likes to be outside. You know, he's not on his video games or anything like that. He's busy playing outside, I guess. His apple tree shades him from the hot summer sun. Looks like he's having a picnic in his treehouse. The green leaves shelter him during a summer shower. So he even hangs out there when it's raining. But sometimes when the branches are really thick and the leaves are really thick, he can stay dry. Arnold watches small apples begin to grow from where the blossoms used to be. They grow bigger and bigger. You see how they're green right now? And bigger. And some of the big green apples, Arnold does a juggling act for his tree front. You see a couple turning red? It is fall. So we're to the next season, right? Do you guys remember what happens in fall? Because we're in fall right now. Arnold's apple tree now has big, red, tasty apples. And everything else, see how it's kind of losing its color? The grass is getting dark, the leaves are changing on the tree. The green leaves have turned golden. They drip to the ground. I love the colors of fall. Arnold gathers some of the leaves and brings them up to his treehouse to make a soft floor to lie on. You guys like to play in the leaves, make piles and roll around? That's always kind of fun, right? Arnold shakes the branches and red apples fall to the ground. He puts them in a basket and takes them home. Arnold and his family make apple pies from the apples from his apple tree. They put the rest of the apples into a cider press and they make fresh apple cider. I love apple cider, hot or cold. On Halloween Day, Arnold decorates some of the biggest apples. Have you ever decorated apples for Halloween? That's an original idea, right? They glow in the moonlight under his tree on Halloween nights. It is winter. What happens in the winter? What do you think the tree is going to look like in the winter? Imagine we are somewhere where it gets very cold. Well, the snow falls. It is quiet. The branches of Arnold's apple tree are bare. Arnold, and bare means that there's no leaves at all, okay? Arnold hangs strings of popcorn and berries on them for the winter birds to eat. He builds a snow fort around the bottom of his tree. That looks really fun, doesn't it? Arnold builds a snowman to keep him and his tree company during the winter. So much fun he's having with this one tree. The snow melts and it's spring again. And that's another cycle, right? We have the cycle of the seed eventually becoming an apple tree, and then we have the cycle of the seasons. So we are going to review. Let me share my screen. Okay, so apples in the spring. We've got the blossoms, right? Or the blooms. When we get back to school, remind me about this activity and I can pull it up and you can do it yourself if you want to up on the board. Okay, so here's apples in spring. We've got the blossoms. Then we have what in the summer? Remember he had the green apples and some of them were slowly turning red. You guys remember when we picked the apples? He picked the apples in what season? Because this is apples in summer, apples in fall. So they're on the tree all red, and there's the basket so you can pick the apples in the fall. I'm not putting them in the basket very good, am I? And then apples in the winter. There's a little bit of leaves there, but really the trees are bare, right? That means there's nothing on there. All right, we did that activity the other day. Here are some of the things you can make: applesauce, apple pie, apple jelly, apple cider. And I'm gonna skip to the back part here. So this is one of the things we're doing. So life cycle. So we have, do you remember what this is called? The seed. Then we have the sprout. Then we have the tree. And remember, it takes years and years for it to grow, right? The blossoms. And finally, the apples. So this leads me to our activities. So one of them is the life cycle of the apple. So you're gonna glue, you should have a piece of green paper, brown paper that's folded over. And I think your apple tree, the top, I copied it on green paper already. So you could color the apples red if you wanted. But then we're gonna glue these little circles that you have in order. Okay, so we've got a seed is planted in the ground. So that's one, right? That's the first thing that happens. Then the seed grows into a small tree. So you're going to color the tree with the green leaves. Then the tree grows and flowers. The tree grows and flowers blossoms, which means those are the flowers that eventually become what? The apples, right? Then you've got the apples. It says the flowers turn into apples, and then you'll be able to pick them, right? That's pretty simple. And then the other thing you're going to do, try not to make this video too long. I would draw this with you, but I don't want to waste your time. So this says, illustrate an apple tree in bloom. So bloom is with the flowers, right? And ripe, with the apples ready to be picked. So ripe is when it's ready to eat, right? You don't want it to be rotten because that means it's over ripe. It's not, it would be yucky. You want a ripe fruit, right? Okay, so those are the two things you're gonna do. Thank you for listening to the two stories and doing this activity with me. I know this video is kind of long, but I can't wait to see your pictures and hopefully you learned some stuff about apples. Bye guys.